I got to tell you, Matt, I'm super passionate about money movement and helping folks in the field service industry get paid and do it compliantly and do it at a fair cost and deliver that high level experience. Get the job done, right? Deliver on it, get paid, everybody's happy, and on to the next happy client. It's a vast, wide world of tech stacks and options.
Jimmy Moore helps field service businesses protect their margins with streamlined payment processing.
And I'm happy to kind of go through some of the back and forth and things, mistakes and pitfalls and things to look for, pricing models, compliance, stuff that's very real to your audience, because almost all of them are taking some form of payment, and they're all some form looking at softwares out there and integrated solutions and running payroll and things like that. And I'm just happy to talk about this stuff because it's relevant.
A quick thing before we jump in. The Sideshed podcast has crossed the 500 episode mark. 500 amazing conversations with business owners, operators, and experts, people that have been in the trenches. And we're super proud of every one of those conversations. But here's a stat that gets me. Only 16% of our listeners actually follow the channel, which means the vast majority of you are listening without us even knowing that you're there. Following the show helps us keep making things better. It shapes the content. It signals what works, what doesn't. And honestly, it matters more than most people realize. If this show has helped you even once, helped you think differently, helped you make a better decision, or just maybe helped you feel less alone in running your business, please hit follow right now. It'll take a couple of seconds and it does mean a lot. And if you really want to make my day, you could leave a review. For those of you that have been here since the early days, you've been part of that journey to episode 500, and we thank you so much. We don't take that lightly. And if today is your first episode, welcome aboard, buckle in, and enjoy the show. Now, let's get into it. Jimmy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Hello.
Good to have you, mate. All the way from, where did you tell me?
Columbia, South Carolina. Go Gamecocks.
South Carolina, football country.
Yes.
Right.
Wonderful. 100 degrees here earlier today, and now the sun's going to set in an hour.
Okay. Oh, well, good luck with that. So, mate, we're talking here today about some of the dynamics around payment, different payment methods, different payment terms, things like that. Funnily enough, after 500 episodes, I don't think I've ever covered this topic, and I know all of our listeners and viewers out there do take payment from clients, when they go to jobs, which, by the way, has been like the most, I think anyway, the biggest evolution from when I was doing my apprenticeship as a plumber, when we were writing out carbon copy invoices and giving one copy to the client, one to the lady in the office, and then just the other one to the lawyer so they can chase it up in 3 months. To these being able to take payment on site, like that's been a real game changer, I think, for the trades. However, there are definitely a cost associated with that. Maybe we can unpack some of those today. Probably the closest thing that I have had on this podcast in relation to this conversation is with a mate of mine, Steve, who runs a business that helps people leverage points, so like credit card points and things like that.
Rewards.
And so that may tie into what we're talking about here to a degree. I'm not sure. But,
it's a necessary evil, right? Everyone wants to get paid and get paid quickly, sooner than later, and ideally leveraging technology. So it's, I got to tell you, Matt, I'm super passionate about money movement and helping folks in the field service industry get paid and do it compliantly and do it at a right cost, a fair cost, and deliver that high level experience. Get the job done, right? Get the job done, deliver on it, get paid, everybody's happy, and on to the next happy client. So it's a vast, wide world of tech stacks and options, and I'm happy to kind of go through some of the back and forth and things, mistakes and pitfalls and things to look for, pricing models, compliance, stuff that's very real to your audience, because they're almost all of them are taking some form of payment, and they're all some form looking at softwares out there and integrated solutions and running payroll and things like that. And I can share with you what we do in the Flowverse at Flow Business Solutions as you like. And I'm just happy to talk about this stuff because it's relevant.
Yeah, no, I mean, let's dive into it. I mean, I guess the like you say, the listeners and the viewers to this show are out there actively taking payments, mostly, I would like to think, from site. And if you're not, you should be, depending on, I suppose, the specific vertical, of course, but especially in the jobs space, the reactive services. So, what are some of the conversations that surround that you guys have seen over the last 20 odd years?
Oh, wow. You're right. And believe it or not, some folks are still out in the field, whether they're in the roofing business or plumbing business or electrical contractors or landscaping, and calling into an office and manually keying in a credit card and hoping that it gets approved and hoping that, it's not disputed or charged back. And then on the other side of that, folks are implementing full on field service management software programs, CRMs, whether it's Jobber or Home Pro or Service Titan, Zuper. I mean, it's endless with the technology, the tech stack that an independent contractor can leverage now and compete with some of the big guys and gals, at least in the States. I mentioned some of those that are, and then you have to, and a lot of times those softwares are proprietary to a processing company, which can rate creep. And then all of a sudden they thought they were going to pay 2 or 3% to process transactions. They look up a year, 3 years down the road, and it's 5%, 8%. We at Flow Business Solutions, we basically do five things, and process payments is one of them. Software is one of them. Marketing as a service is one of them. Payroll and human capital management is one of them. Then providing working capital to folks. So it's we see a lot of people just in a lot of crazy scenarios. And again, if what we usually find out is people are just looking for a trusted advisor and somebody they can count on to move the money safely and securely. This can come alongside them and help win. It's more fun to win. So it's bizarre.
I think the like a lot of what we're talking about here, I suppose, would inevitably come down to like cost of doing business like today. And I guess the question really is, well, in contrast, if we are going to have the system where people phone up and we get their bank details and, it's a transfer sort of scenario, whatever, like what's the real opportunity loss there of not streamlining that? Like, take Stripe, for example. We've been using Stripe forever. Yes, it's expensive, like 3.4%, fee on your transactions. But then that 3.4% is typically a lot cheaper than having, somebody sitting there in accounts receivables chasing bills all day.
Yeah, you're spot on. The data shows that for the contractors that are able to send out a text to pay or email an invoice with a pay link, speeds up that AR by 15 to 20 days on average versus snail mail or making phone calls and all of that. So when a contractor is making it easy to get paid and making that customer just right in front of you, click your phone, you get a text, you get an email, you pay it, done. Now, the cost of doing that continues to rise, and it's inevitable. The biggest trend we're seeing, Matt, are folks building in convenience fees and cash discounting, offering compliant programs to incentivize their customers to pay with cash or check, and otherwise surcharging to accept credit cards and or dual pricing. So what I mean by that, there's 3 ways a contractor can do that compliantly. And there's 3 products. Surcharging, which is a 3% surcharge, just add on 3% to a credit card only, not a debit card. Then there's cash discounting, list your highest price and discount if someone pays with cash or check. So $1,000 service, $10,000 service, discounts by $200, $300, $400 versus adding $300. And then there's dual pricing. And when you've been around the States for a decade and a half now, gas stations have been doing that model for a decade and a half. Gas is one price for card, one price for cash. And they usually list the cash price.
Quick pause for a second. If this episode's hitting home for you, do us a favor. Please give it a follow on this app. And if possible, please share it with someone that you think would also benefit. This podcast was brought to you by tradiewebguys, where day in, day out, we work with tradies and contractors that are looking for predictable, manageable systems to close more jobs and scale with consistency. It's a proven system that's focused on closing more jobs, not just generating more leads. We have loads of case studies and reviews on the website to back this up if you want to go check it out. If you like the sound of predictable, manageable, and consistent growth, click on the link in the description or head to tradiewebguys.com.au and start the conversation. All right, back to it.
Wow. Yeah. So now the industry, including the service industry, most restaurants and retails are now following that trend. Why? Because they're tired of paying credit card fees and paying all of these fees to Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Discover for the convenience of you and I using our rewards card or our corporate card or our purchasing card. And it's been fascinating over the last 5 years because the card brands are behind it as long as you do it right. So you can surcharge at 3% if you're a contractor, or you can offer that cash discount at whatever you want. The average is 3 to 4%. We see a lot of 3.99%. Or you can list a card price and a cash price. I'm going to do your roof or replace your HVAC system or do some plumbing for $5,000. And if you pay with your card, it's whatever, 5,000 this, but if you pay cash, it's 4,800 or whatever the number is, however you do the math, whatever the discount is for paying with cash. And that's what the card brands want to do. Now, what the business owners want to do, many of your listeners, they don't want to do all this compliance stuff. They just want to tack on a fee and be done with it. Wash their hands. They don't pay the payment processing fee anymore. And about 160,000 businesses across America have been fined already. That's data from about 8 or 10 months ago, and it's been happening since then. So we're waiting on the latest report. So what they're doing is they have these secret shoppers, and they're going around to all sorts of businesses, and they're purchasing or looking at a receipt, looking at signage, and seeing if they're tacking on an additional fee when they use their credit or debit card. And if so, is it being done compliantly via the 3 methods that I suggested? And it's hundreds of thousands of businesses now that have been fined $1,000. Then it goes to $5,000. Then it goes to $25,000 for if you have 30 days to become compliant. So it's a witch hunt, and businesses across America at least are not very happy about it. And Visa is very serious about enforcing this compliance around it. So one of the things that we do is being in the middle of that transaction is work with service contractors and all types of businesses to help them become compliant, to minimize or make the fees go away, and to move that money safely and securely into their bank account, get them paid sooner than later, so they're not chasing the monies and the AR, et cetera. And that's the biggest trend right now is cash discounting in the service industry.
So, okay, I got a question for you, right? And like, in the interest of, like, we've had this conversation on the podcast a lot of times when we're talking about like allocations, operational expenses, all that kind of conversation that circle that sort of whole profit first business model, which I'm a huge fan of. The question that I would have, and what I sort of recommend to what we do and what I recommend to businesses, is that they build into their operational expenses like the surcharge, and it just becomes included as part of the price.
Mm-hmm. That's a great way to do it.
I mean, surely that's just the safest way to do it.
Yeah, it's one way to do it, and we get feedback from the marketplace that some are doing that. And then, there's so many variations for a contractor. When you look at this, the wholesale cost that are set by Visa, MasterCard, and the issuing banks. Think about it, there's 3 hands in the cookie jar when you look at cost, just sheer facts. 3 hands in the cookie jar. One is the issuing banks, Chase, Capital One, BOA, Wells Fargo, the folks that are issuing you, me, consumers, cards. They're collecting the majority of the money that businesses are paying to process cards. Second hand in the cookie jar are the card brands, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover. and everything that comes along with that, and a mobile wallet, all the way down to ultimately it's going to be crypto and biometric and everything else. And then 3 is the processing platform, a Stripe or a Flow or a processing company that kind of brokers the deal, moves the money from the point of sale through all of those channels into the corporate bank account. And the majority, 80% of the cost is coming from the issuing bank. Now, that average cost in the service industry across America, at least, I don't know it. I would look up data points and Gemini at whatever, Perplexity, ChatGPT, whatever, and look it up where it is everywhere else. But we're running about a 2% wholesale cost in the States before anyone touches it, just on the interchange, which is the issuing bank's portion. Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. Then Visa, MasterCard gets somewhere, a tenth to a quarter of a point in the stuff. And then most processing companies are getting anywhere from a quarter of a point to 3 or 4 or 5 points, depending on the risk to provide the service, move the money, implement technology. And, true story, 2-3 weeks ago, one of our service contractors, we approached them because we knew they were with a vendor that had been purchased. They were using proprietary software, and they had paid $1 million in processing fees since 2019. That's 7 years-ish. $1 million processing $100,000 at this location per month and $100,000 at that location per month. And that's what it had accumulated to. And they thought they were stuck in the software. So now new tech stacks, new aggregators, new little gateways allows you to bridge a gap between point A and point B and connect the CRMs that the service titans of the world that have been proprietary and hinge. You can't go anywhere else. You're stuck. Now you have ways to talk to that technology so that that service contractor can choose who they want to process their transactions through. And they may not have to pay. In that case, they were paying 10.2% and 8.4% effective rate. And that's a cost. That's beyond a cost to do business.
Yeah, that sounds borderline illegal, to be honest.
Unregulated industry, absolutely. And it's games and gimmicks. And again, when an independent contractor gets stuck in proprietary technology, and Matt, we see it all over the States, all over the Carolinas, all over Florida, all over New York, all over California, weekly, where they're stuck in this software because they're doing their scheduling, their billing, they're doing all of these things to operate their business, and they have to process through that software's processing platform. And now technology allows them to break out of that, break free, and choose their vendor. And it's a sense of freedom, not to mention they're typically going to cut their cost by a half or a third.
So I guess the question is, like, when we look at, okay. If you go back a step, I suppose, first of all, we need to understand what these fees actually are that we're getting, right? So when you look at like some of these modern day accounting and bookkeeping softwares, your Xero, your MYOB, your QuickBooks, these kind of things, they're pretty good at helping you identify some of these, additional line items and costs and fees and things like that. So I suppose at a base level, figure out where these fees are actually coming into play. Then off the back of that, I guess the question, I mean, look, 8%, I've never heard anything like that. That's friggin' wild. But like, if you say so, I guess the thing is, when you look at a payment processor like Stripe, like that, the convenience of, and you use the example of the business that you had before, right? Where they spent $1 million, in fees to like $1 million in fees. Sure. But like, if the cost of them not having that system set up, they probably wouldn't have made anywhere near as many sales, right? So I guess you need to weigh up the opportunity cost of having that tool in position there. Quick pause for a second. If this episode's hitting home for you, do us a favor. Please give it a follow on this app. And if possible, please share it with someone that you think would also benefit. This podcast was brought to you by tradiewebguys, where day in, day out, we work with tradies and contractors that are looking for predictable, manageable systems to close more jobs and scale with consistency. It's a proven system that's focused on closing more jobs, not just generating more leads. We have loads of case studies and reviews on the website to back this up if you want to go check it out. If you like the sound of predictable, manageable, and consistent growth, click on the link in the description or head to tradiewebguys.com.au and start the conversation. All right, back to it.
It was relevant. And as time went by and the rate creeps continued and the revenue leakage continued, and what we typically advise contractors and all business owners is just keep an eye on it. Your office manager, your staff, whatever your leadership, yourself, watch the statements, watch the money movement, understand what your effective rate is. What came out of your bank account against sales, a cost against sales, just like you run cost of payroll, cost of goods, et cetera, cost of equipment. And on average, it's around 3.5 to 4 points in the service industry in the States, because cost is about anywhere from really 1.7 to 2.6 is average interchange cost across the states, across America. And then you start tacking all these other things to build in value, if you will. So we just encourage folks to, take a look at 3 months of statements, audit them, see what the effective rates are, see what types of cards they're getting. Because the other thing that impacts costs so much that's almost out of the business owner's control, Matt, is, are they getting consumer cards? Are they doing residential work? Or are they doing commercial work? And when they're doing consumer work, you're just getting credit cards, debit cards, rewards cards, right? Sky Miles cards. When they're doing commercial work, higher ticket items, you start getting into the purchase cards, government cards. And those cards, in some cases, carry close to a 3% wholesale cost before the processor and Visa, MasterCard and all of them get an additional markup. And again, that's out of the contractor's control. What type of card and payment method are folks going to use? So a lot of folks will set up ACH services because it's significantly less to accept an ACH transfer from their bank account to your bank account. And you might be, a quarter of a point to a half of a point all in to accept checks, e-checks, if you will. And then it just comes down to, you want to guarantee that $5,000 or $50,000 check.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the other thing, I suppose, is like the convenience of having, like, if you take Stripe as an example, where they've got so many, they've got such a monopoly, it feels like anyway, especially certainly over here, but it's integrated into everything, like everywhere will connect to Stripe as the payment processor,
Right.
So it's just like, it's such an easy thing, excuse me, to use that system. And
Absolutely. It's convenient.
for better. I mean, it's a great job for them. They've done that. But yeah, I question. Well, over here anyway, like what are the options? I mean, no one's using PayPal anymore.
Well, in the States, it's very competitive. There's 50 different field management service software type programs and CRMs that are vying for that same electrical contractor, or that same plumber, that same landscaper. And then they're competing on price, they're competing on value. The payment processing fees come into are part of the conversation, of course. And what you see so many times is the fees start here. 6 months later, they're a little higher. Software and payment processing, 6 months later. So they just creep up. And so important to the audience out there and to folks running a business that is moving money and accepting payments, to keep an eye on it, because that's one part of it. The other part that can get them is compliance and what we call PCI DSS compliance. And all businesses, per the card brands, have to do an annual survey and have these check boxes in place that kind of keeps the bad guys out and keeps them compliant, PCI certified, to continue to take cards. So, for example, if I'm out in the field and I write down your credit card number and your security code and your information, and I'm taking that back to the office and I'm storing that somewhere, they are now at risk of huge fines, huge audits, and could potentially be revoked from being able to accept credit and debit cards by the card brands. So there's all of these steps that a contractor or a restaurateur or a retailer or a manufacturer that we all have to take to remain secure. Because security in our world trumps price. It's one thing to pay 3.4%, but if your money gets hacked, gets stolen, is fraudulent, and it's just rolling in over and over with a lot of identity theft, then that trumps the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6% cost to move that money. So one of the biggest things that contractors should be looking at is what are they doing to secure their systems, to choose the right providers that protect the money, and to make sure they're doing their surveys annually, and or their payment processing provider is keeping them certified to be compliant. And if not, typically a payment platform will charge a monthly non-compliant fee. There was one large publicly traded company in the States that was billing about 70% of their merchant base, which was about 500,000 clients, $125 to $150 monthly for being non-compliant on their PCI. So it's very real. And, $125, $150 a month adds up if they're not watching their merchant statement, if they're not watching their bank account. More importantly, they're at risk if they're not maintaining those security measures. And it's very important. And if you're not working, slinging deals, doing these contracts, taking care of a staff, managing a fleet, on to the next job, it's very easy to take your eye off that stuff. We see it every day, every week. Scary, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those. I guess having the data, like knowing what those numbers actually look like. Yeah. I mean, it's tricky in that, like, you sort of lean on these tools to, like, inevitably you kind of become dependent on them within your business model, and then there's all these details and semantics that come into play around some of these unethical sort of, or however you want to call it.
Think about card not present. Think about card not present in the service industry. So many transactions. Yes, you want the field tech to have some type of payment device or some type of tap to pay when they're on the job. In so many cases, that's not the case. They're billing, they're texting, or they're emailing over the payment link to get that installment or get the cost of the job or whatever it might be. Now, what the contractor in the office does with that card on file and how they store it matters. And that's where identity, and that's where fraud, and that's where employee theft, and that's where all of these other shenanigans happen if they don't have the right processes and procedures in place. And I mean, folks can look up, you can research credit card fraud. It is, I mean, it's as high as it's ever been. It's in the billions. And it's not going to go away with AI now, because the bad guys just got a whole lot better, better at hacking in.
Yeah, and even I noticed that the other day. Actually, I was having Claude Cowork do some like bank analysis, and it wouldn't actually log into, it wouldn't access the bank. It said, it's not allowed, it's been permitted, locked down. Which I was like, that's probably a good thing. So I had to export all the statements instead and feed that to it so that it could do its own analysis off the statements, which was kind of at the time frustrating, but in hindsight probably a relief.
Right. Double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah. What else do we need to talk about?
Well,
what about cash discounting?
Question, the cash discounting piece is good. I just, I think it's worthy of mentioning some things to avoid when, especially if you have new listeners or someone is shopping and they want to go to market. We sometimes talk about what should they look for if they're going to go to market and look at a new tech stack, a new CRM, a new point of sale, a new payment provider, a new bank. And we like to say, start with doing your research. Don't be quick to make a bad decision, and really vet some vendors. And ideally, when folks can do business locally, sometimes that means something as well. There's enterprise, this and that. But when you've got a local business somewhere doing business with another local business, and all the tools are in place and they're referring each other back, a lot of folks at Flow, they'll they'll be at a BNI group or networking group, and there's 4, 5, 6 service contractors in that group, and they all help each other. They refer each other business. Givers gain. So we say all that to say, choose your trusted provider wisely and vet them and make sure it's credible, because at least you don't sign up for something you can't get out of, and who you're doing business with.
We see a lot of
What's that?
businesses sort of devaluing through discounting, like they'll here to avoid maybe the GST component on the invoice. Oh, you pay cash and we'll wipe the GST, that kind of thing, which just really sort of devalues. Whether they declare that job or not, maybe it's also a case of, well, if we're not giving you GST, we can't give you an invoice or a receipt, so the job never happened, kind of thing.
That's all, whatever the tactics and strategies folks want to do. It's important that as a business owner, they understand the pricing model and understanding what's available out there, and doing everything they can not to be hinged to one single software. That's one of the biggest mistakes we see is they buy a software that's going to help their business, rightfully so, but it's attached to a single payment processing company or a single payroll company or a single human capital management stuff that helps them with their HR and their benefits and their workers' comp insurance and things like that. We take a lot of pride in building a fence around that and getting it all under one roof, one hiney to kick, right? Where they have their software, have their hardware, have their training, their learning management systems, have the process their payments, their payroll, all of those things, have access to capital. There's a benefit in that, and still having the option to say, this platform doesn't do what we want it to do, Jimmy and team. Let's look at this platform instead. Wait a minute, that platform just got bought with all the M&As going on in fintech, especially in our market. And what are we going to do next? There's money grabs. So let's move to a different platform. Like in this, ADP and Paychex are our 2 largest payroll companies here. And Big Bread, Big Blue. We rep both of them, right? So we're resellers and dealers of both of those. So if they love one, hate the other, we go over here, or vice versa. And then there's 10 or 12 other platforms that will broker and help that service contractor choose the right program that makes sense for them and meet them where they are, versus being hinged to that single proprietary technology. And that's where people get stuck. That's where they overpay. That's where they can't get out of a contract. And they get in so deep in software, they don't know how to get out.
Quick pause for a second. If this episode's hitting home for you, do us a favor. Please give it a follow on this app. And if possible, please share it with someone that you think would also benefit. This podcast was brought to you by tradiewebguys, where day in, day out, we work with tradies and contractors that are looking for predictable, manageable systems to close more jobs and scale with consistency. It's a proven system that's focused on closing more jobs, not just generating more leads. We have loads of case studies and reviews on the website to back this up if you want to go check it out. If you like the sound of predictable, manageable, and growth, click on the link in the description or head to tradiewebguys.com.au and start the conversation. All right, back to it. Yeah, I think for the better part, most softwares tend to align with if you're talking about processing platforms, they tend to align with one. The job management tools, especially that I've seen, your Service Titan, Service Mate, Tradeify, Simpro, Aeroflows, whatever they are, they all tend to align with one processing unit. So you don't really have a say in that if you want to use the tool.
Guess what? That has now changed.
Okay.
That has now changed because of the gateways I mentioned,
right.
The little third-party integrations that allow point A to talk to point B. So the Simpro, the Service Titans, go all the way down the line, the Jobbers, the Home Pro. You can now overlay a bridge onto that payments device and that CRM that will transfer the data from the CRM to the payments device through the processing platforms, or vice versa. And that's giving service contractors possibilities and options that they did not have before. And this is fairly, in the last 12, 14 months, really just become more readily available. And a lot of folks are still trying to figure it out. But I got to tell you, it's a game changer. It's a game changer when you don't have to use Stripe And usually Stripe does a pretty good job. They're not gouging folks like some of the other platforms. We've seen across the marketplace. Square, we're a Square dealer. We sell probably 10 or 15 different softwares directly as an organization, as a SaaS company. And Square is one of our programs. And Square does a good job with service contractors. They've got some really built-in, and Square's in your market, right? Square's all over across the states, and they're the dominant SaaS model alongside Clover here. And obviously Flo's a Clover dealer as well. So it's important to have options and figure out what is the best fit for that electrical contractor or that plumber, or that landscape. I mean, listen, man, when I was my first work as a teenager was cutting grass and landscaping, right, for 2 years. And that started, then I got smart and I wanted to roof houses. So I started roofing houses and laying shingles, working on the tan for $3.50 an hour. And we're talking about a license to steal. Then I got even smarter. My best friend's family had a masonry company. So we headed to the brick pile. Let's go. Let's lay some brick. Need more mud. And and all of that comes with a lot of work ethic, a lot of sweat, but you learn what these contractors were doing really in the grind, in the field, and trying to figure out technology and how to get paid, how to get another job, how to market their brand, how to keep the cooler full when the job's done, and how to get everybody to work that next morning. I mean, it was bizarre. I got to see a lot as a young man through that made me appreciate what these entrepreneurs do now to build their brand and build their business and to drive revenue and to try to do it the most effective way without getting deceived by fintech companies or by software companies or by banks or by payroll or by shark lending and all these other ways. There's got to be 100 ways to lose money if you're a plumber, aside from executing on the job site.
Yeah.
I just said a lot right there. I get excited, man.
Do you think it would be fair to say the first place to start with this is at getting clarity around your numbers and your data, and just figuring out, okay, well, what am I actually paying here in various forms of fees to banks, to processing units, to this, to that?
Yeah, it's a good start. I mean, I go back to effective rate. Look at your merchant statements.
Yeah.
Effectively, what am I paying against sales? If I had 10,000 in sales, were my fees $300, $400, $500? That would effectively be 3 or 4 or 5% if you do the math. If I had $100,000 in gross revenue in credit card sales or checks, whatever you're going to look at, what were my fees? Were they 3,400 on Stripe at 3.4%, or were they significantly higher? Were they 6,000, or in that case I mentioned a moment ago, were they 8,200? And this contractor is like blowing a gasket, going, "How have we missed this?" and turned our cheek away because they're building, they're growing. So heck yeah, they should absolutely look at their effective rate. That's easy. You look at a statement, sales, fees, divide it in, done. Effectively, what does it cost you against, what is it costing you to accept credit cards? And then start breaking it down. Okay, what kind of cards am I getting? That's where it starts getting, that's interchange management. That's optimization. Okay, is this card qualifying at the right fees associated? Is it a consumer card? Is it a rewards card? Is it a purchasing card? Is it a corporate card? And is it qualifying in the right categories? That's where they need help. That's where they need a consultant and an advisor, somebody that can drop it into software and break it down. That Visa card, is it rewards too? Is it signature? Is it travel and elite? All these things. Is it a 1.65 rate? Is it a 2.35 rate? Is it a 2.9% rate? Most folk, it is built for deception, Matt. There's 400 levels of interchange. Yeah. None of us know them all. I know lots of them because I watch them sometimes, and then they change twice a year. So it's built for deception, and the card brands know it, the banks know it, and the business owners were stuck right over here in the middle trying to decipher through how do I work through this. So, if they haven't looked at, if they're not looking at it every 6 months, they're costing their family money. really. They're costing their family money if they're not looking every 6 months. And then you really want to look at what's new. Again, the biggest trend is they're tired of paying 3.4% to strike. Let's make it go away. Let's build it in to my catalog, to my menu, to my cost. Let's pass it along to the customer, card price, cash price, or cash discounting. And there's compliant ways to do that that is very accepted these days. Now, the bigger the ticket, the bigger the fee. So you have to figure out your talk tracks and how do you explain that to your clients. But the clients still want to use, I do it all the time. I buy a big ticket item and I want my points on my one of my rewards cards. So I just pay the credit card fee because I want the points. It's bizarre the behavior that we're seeing in the marketplace to capture those points and those rewards, even paying more.
Yeah, well, it's like there's actually like a ratio there, and I learned this through the podcast that I did with my buddy Steve. But he was saying, like, if you take the American Express, card for example, and this was before they changed all of their point values, but back then it was if the place is charging you more than 2.5% on your Amex, then it doesn't correlate back to the value you'd be getting in points. So you're better off not using it. Yeah. So if
most consumers are not doing that math and not thinking that much into it, they're making spontaneous decisions. It's bizarre.
Yeah. But I mean, that's
way smarter.
Say again.
That's way smarter. That thought process is the way. Yeah, figure out the break evens. Where does it benefit the consumer or the business or whatever it is, and do the math. But we're not seeing people slow down to do that. We're seeing them go and try to get the transaction done and instant gratification.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I've always just sort of subscribed to the smarter way to do it, and I guess this is sort of a testament to lower ticket products. Like if you've got a super high, hundreds of thousands of dollars, it probably doesn't apply. But if you're taking payments for $1,000, $2,000, that kind of thing, like I've always just been a believer of just building that price in, like the processing price into the product as an operational expense. And there's a 5% processing fee in there. If someone wants to use the card, use whatever card you want, it's built into it. Quick pause for a second. If this episode's hitting home for you, do us a favor. Please give it a follow on this app. And if possible, please share it with someone that you think would also benefit. This podcast was brought to you by tradiewebguys, where day in, day out, we work with tradies and contractors that are looking for predictable, manageable systems to close more jobs and scale with consistency. It's a proven system that's focused on closing more jobs, not just generating more leads. We have loads of case studies and reviews on the website to back this up if you want to go check it out. If you like the sound of predictable, manageable, and consistent growth, click on the link in the description or head to tradiewebguys.com.au and start the conversation. All right, back to it.
Yeah. And then what about then the cost of labor goes up all of a sudden by 8%, right? And then the cost of product and cost of goods goes up another 12 or 16% with inflation. All of a sudden, that little 3% or 4% we tacked on over here did not equate to offset my profit margin. So and the smart operators that are doing that consistently, even quarterly, and managing that, and they're nimble enough to pivot. But with most small business operators, we're not seeing them that nimble and flexible, and they're almost counting on their trusted advisors and their partners to do it for them. The other biggest gap and a major issue, especially for contractors, and of course high ticket items and other areas, furniture and things like that with future delivery, chargebacks. Chargebacks are a problem. On average, it costs 2 to 4% to a service contractor in America of their gross revenue annually.
Is that like a refund?
Yeah, that's when the customer disputes the transaction.
Okay.
And they win because on average, only 30 to 33% of chargebacks, the win rate for chargebacks are 30 to 33% across America. So once someone disputes that $500 transaction, that $5,000 transaction, only a third of them are that business loses 2/3 of the chargebacks, and those are all factual numbers. You can look at the trade associations, you can look at the card brands, you look at the banks. That's public knowledge out there. It's very scary. And not only that, think about the overall cost of a $5,000 chargeback. Probably ranges between 75 and 8,500 of total loss, because you're losing the $5,000 payment, right? The customer disputes that, and they win a lot because the contractor doesn't have the right software and practices in place. They can't prove signature, they can't prove invoice, they can't prove time stamp date of IP where that payment was made geographically. The right software allows them to do that and prevent chargebacks. It's a chargeback defense. Then you can't get back the cost of the equipment. That's a loss. So equipment costs, then you got technician costs, and a $5,000 chargeback now really costs that contractor $8,000 if you start breaking down the numbers. So it's a problem, and unfortunately, a lot of it is friendly fraud. Have you heard of friendly fraud?
No.
Friendly fraud is when it was unintentional. The customer, and it's usually like it's the descriptor on their credit card statement. JC Holdings LLC instead of Jimmy and Matt's Contractors. It's these legal names. So the descriptors on their credit card statement, they don't recognize, they dispute. The card brands and issuing bank sides with the customer once they realize the contractor didn't have those things in place. I had some notes. You can look up exactly what you have to have in place in order for that charge to stick. And when you defend a chargeback, you've got to have the invoice. It's got to be signed. It's got to be associated to have been paid. All that payment information has got to be verified. There's very specific steps that the card brands and issuing banks require the business owner, unfortunately, to prove that was a legitimate transaction.
I mean, if you're using software like job management tools, surely it does all of that. Like you've got a job, you've got the invoice number, you've got the quote attached to it, you've got the payment acceptance, you've got the signature from the client, the point of sale location. Like, wouldn't that all be built into the right tool?
Theoretically.
Right.
Theoretically, they have to execute on it, and they have to follow the procedures to respond to the dispute. So many times in the industry, the contractor, the business owner does not respond to dispute in the timely manner and misses the deadlines, even if they had all of the proof. No, it's not a problem in the flow model. We manage our chargebacks. It's not an issue. But again, if they bought it online and they don't have a trusted advisor and they don't have somebody that's hand holding them, okay, we got to have this in by next week. Or here's the email. They went to their spam, they overlooked it, or they got busy. And yes, $5,000 transaction, they're usually paying attention, but they lose all the time. They lose more than they win. That's factual information, public information. It's very scary. So the right software, yes, managed the right way with the right care and the right focus, they should be able to win. I think that number moves up to around 50%.
Yeah, right. Okay.
It's a problem. It's a problem in our industry related to service. Burger joints, think about it. Buy here, pay here. You go get a $10 burger, card present. You got the food, you have a receipt, you sign for it digitally or whatever. It doesn't matter. That's not, they manage those. Starbucks gets 25,000 chargebacks a month, by the way. 25,000 chargebacks per month. Starbucks as a company.
At point of sale.
Say it again?
At point of sale.
Yes. And their app and back and forth. No, they win most of them.
Right.
They win most of them, but people are still disputing friendly fraud. It is a problem.
And that's why they charge $12 for a latte.
Yes, with your specialty, all that comes along with it. Yeah.
Jimmy, this is interesting. We've never covered this topic, so thanks for sharing some little nuggets of wisdom there. It's been good.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a complex space, and I just hope people are paying attention to all the options and programs that are out there. And
I dare say they're not. They probably just use whatever they've set up with, and they always have. So I think all of you guys out there, my takeaway would be do a good audit of these things and just really understand what you really are, what you are paying, and if that isn't factored in, you need to.
Heck yeah, there's a scorecard, a business review and payment processing scorecard I could send you that if you wanted to tag it somewhere. It's free. It gives them a report. They do the little scorecard. It gives them a report. It's about 15, 20 questions on them evaluating things we've been talking about, and then they get a score and some feedback on some things they might want to look at related to payroll and payment processing. But I'll send you those links. It might be of value to someone listening at some point. And of course, if a business and a contractor wanted to go to flowbizsolutions.com, there's a lot of information there, and they could schedule a free consult with our team, and we could go through lots of options, audits, look at things for them, no cost associated, no obligation. And, as a sales and service and tech organization, we like to win new business and help people win.
We'll have all the links to all that stuff over in the show notes over at thesiteshed.com. So just if you guys are watching this and you want to get access to that, just go to siteshed.com, search Jimmy, JIMMY, and then this episode will inevitably pop up with all those links. And Jimmy, if you want to send over those things, I'll make sure they're in there.
Excellent. Scorecard's easy and it's free, and why not, right? Take 5 minutes and kind of do a quick reflection on the business. But this has been fun. You all do great work, Matt. We appreciate the invite, and I look forward to seeing all your future conversations.
Thanks for pulling the wool off, pulling the wool back, so we can see through some of the misty veneers.
Scary stuff, yeah.
Thanks, mate. Much appreciated.
Right. Thanks for going with the flow. See you soon.
There's a wrap. Hey guys and girls, how would you like all of the value adds left behind from our podcast guest all put together in the one spot? We've pulled every tool together, every template, every resource shared on the show, and we've packed them all into the Tradie Academy. It's free to join, and it's built by the team behind the SiteShed and tradiewebguys. Inside, you'll get marketing tips, business tools, and first access to future resources, all in one simple dashboard. Just head across to tradie.wiki/pod. That's tradie.wiki/pod. The link's in the episode description. And once again, you just log in once and then you're all set. And if you want to get notified of upcoming episodes, hit subscribe or follow.